about bottled newts and the importance of pH, okay? So, the main differences, in my opinion, between organic and bottled or synthetic or salt-based newts is the way that the plant actually receives those specific different nutrients, all right? In an organic and living soil component, in a little living soil setup, that you have your organisms, your microbes, and different parts that are living that break down organic material in order to supply the plant through a variety of different processes what they need to grow, which is nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, okay? And then there's a whole list of other nutrients that are actually needed, okay? When you're feeding bottled newts, that you are playing the part of those organisms. Now keep in mind, those organisms, microbes, and different fungi and things have millions of years of evolution on you, but you have a high evolved brain, okay? And so you know what the processes are. So pH is such an important thing, and it's so much more important when you're using any sort of the Dream Bee strain of the week freebie is still Diamond Slushy, Michael Gratz. So that whenever you're feeding bottled newts or salt-based newts, that you are in control of the pH range. Okay, pH stands for potential hydrogen. I'm not going to get any too much far past that because it's a very deep rabbit hole. Okay, potential hydrogen or pH allows the plants to do the ionic transfer, the osmotic process in that root zone through the water and the membrane of the root. Okay, and so if you have a pH that is too low, it will not let certain ions and molecules go through into the root zone, into the actual root tissue, okay? There are charts and things like this, and it's different for soil versus, say, a deep water culture or a soilless medium, all right? That you're generally going to be about a point lower in a DWC or a ebb and flow or a cocoa types, they're called soilless setups, all right? Soilless mediums, okay, which means it's not going to be dirt. All right, in dirt, you want your pH to be about 6.8, and keep it there as best you can. That is a perfect range to absorb all mono and nutrients, okay, all primary and secondary nutrients. And if you're in cocoa, or if you're in deep water culture, or if you're in a soilless medium, then you're going to want your pH to be at about 5.8. And the reason that it is it has to do with the osmotic pressure, and it has to do with the pressure involved in actually being able to carry out that process. So you have a root membrane right here, and you have an ion on this side and an ion on this side. The process of osmosis uses the difference in pressure to actually have those different molecules and ions and things go across the membrane, all right? And so potential hydrogen, or your pH, plays such an important role in that such to the degree that a 0.01 difference can be the difference between whether your plant is in complete lockout or not. It is very, very important. And so one piece of equipment that I suggest that everybody, especially if you're just starting out, get is a high quality pH meter. All right, getting a high quality pH meter and understanding that you have different places where you can measure your pH is super important, okay? So the way that it works is you have a bottled newts, a bottled nutrient regimen, or a salt-based nutrient regimen, and you're going to have your water, you're going to have your nutrients, you're going to mix whatever nutrients you mix, then you're going to test your pH. It's only after you've mixed your nutrients do you want to test your pH, because if you do it before, it doesn't matter. Whenever you add the nutrients, it's going to change. In almost all cases, it will plummet it down to a very low level. You can put all the nutrients you want, but if you're at a pH of 5, it is not, the plant will not be able to use it. It will never even know it's there, okay? And so keeping your pH in a good range to where it'll uptake all the nutrients is so important. Okay, so whenever you feed you mix up your nutrients, you test the pH, you get it to 6.8. Then you put it in your plant, okay? Well, in that plant, in the root zone, that you're going to have it do all kinds of different things. Again, due to that potential hydrogen rating and due to the different osmotic pressures inside that soil, all of those kind of things are going to play a factor in what your pH is. It also plays a factor in what the plant is uptaking and what it's letting out. All right. You want to make sure that you understand pH when you're using bottled nutrients, and you can understand that once you put it in the water with your nutrients, that's going to be one place. Then it goes into the into the root zone. That's another place. And then on the back end, that's yet another place. All right. And so there's a whole science and a whole breakdown of being able to understand what pH you're going in, and if it's coming out at a different pH, be it higher or lower, that what your plant's actually doing. And these are some pretty advanced growing techniques, but these are things that is going to be the evolution of what everybody does in understanding the biology and ultimately the best way to get the genetic maximum potential out of these plants. Okay. Albert Johnson, that's interesting. He said I should charge for this info, and I don't. I can't. I couldn't. I never could. This is an internal passion that I have. And these kinds of thoughts and these kind of conversations that we have are what happen in my mind 24 hours a day. And so really this is actually just a release for me to be able to talk to folks who will listen about, my thoughts and take on growing cannabis. So I'm glad that you think it's worthy of somebody paying for it, but I could never do it. And so, when you're messing with the bottled newts, that you're playing the act of evolution, you're playing the act of nature, and you're doing all of the things that nature has evolved for millennia to be able to do automatically almost, okay? And so you got to keep that in mind, and you got to make sure that you're keeping your pH in a correct range, whether you're in soil or soilless, okay? Again, having a pH meter that is quality, and I'm glad I thought about this. Okay, folks. Y'all want to know what sucks about those pH meters? They're extremely hard to keep in great working condition, all right? That do some research about how to take care of your pH pen. That little glass bubble that all of them come with, that thing has to stay wet all the time. If it ever dries out, your pH pen is completely useless. You got to replace that part. If you got a Blue Lab, you got to get a whole new one if it's one of the Amazon specials, okay? You got to have an understanding of how to calibrate your pH pen, all right? And there's different, y'all. It can get daunting and it can get frustrating. Ultimately, these are a lot of the reasons why I chose to recommend for the majority of new growers, especially BioFlower, for your first grows, because that's going to give you the best chance to get something without having to learn all of this stuff in a trial by fire setting. Okay, that you can get an understanding, you can get to a crop, and then you can start being understand, okay, well, this is what this is doing, this is what's this doing. If you don't have the, if you have to learn where a simple pH mistake can ultimately kill your plant, it's a tough task. We got 124 on the ticker, folks. Everybody stick around. Come on now.